Welcome, everyone. This is Friday, October 25th, and Westchester Disabled on the Move is pleased to welcome you to Your Voice, Your Vote, an event featuring the two candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives, the 16th Congressional District. This is really very special for us, and we are very happy that they both agreed to come and introduce themselves and present their positions. And a special thank you to both of them, and a special thank you to our sponsor, the American Association of People with Disabilities. First, there's Westchester County Executive George Latimer. He grew up in Mount Vernon and has held office since for about 35 years, including Rice City Councilman, county legislator, New York State Assemblyman also, New York State Senator, and now he's the county executive since 2017. A Democrat, Latimer said he prides himself on 3 decades of public service and his deep commitment to local community needs and his ability to deliver real results for his constituents. Dr. Miriam Levitt is a pediatrician from Scarsdale who ran for Congress in 2022. She served 1 term as Scarsdale mayor and served as a trustee from 2007 to 2011, a registered independent running on the Republican ballot line. She is a practicing pediatrician and serves as the medical director of Bronxville School District. She has lived in Westchester for more than 40 years. Now let's review the ground rules. This is a nonpartisan event held solely to inform and educate. WDOM does not support or oppose any candidate for office, and this is not a political fundraising event. This is not a debate. The candidates will not address each other. There will be no questions from the audience. And now we are going to ask each candidate for a 3-minute opening statement. When we are at the 1-minute mark, Michelle will raise his hands and say 1 minute. Now let's begin. We've already spoken before and we've decided that the county executive will go first. Go ahead, Mr. Latimer.
Thanks very much, and thanks to the organization for bringing us together to have hopefully a helpful conversation on issues in general and how they relate to the community of those who deal with disabilities. As mentioned, I'm a local person, grew up in Mount Vernon, went to the public school system in Mount Vernon High School, graduate there, Fordham University, NYU Graduate School, had a 20-year career in corporate life as a sales and marketing executive before I began my public career. And as you've already outlined, all the different positions I've had the opportunity to serve in. It's important to know what is it that you can do when you go to Congress, not just what you feel or what you think. And it's important for me to outline that as a legislator going to Washington, it's a large institution. It will take a lot of internal knowledge of how things work in order to be successful. As a county executive, I've been able to establish a council for people with disabilities, did not exist prior to my tenure. That group has helped us conduct for the first time in Westchester's history disability job fairs for people to try to match up opportunities for employment. We've used that to help us modernize our transportation system, the Beeline bus system. We've used sign language for many of our major events. We've also tried to work on issues that involve mental health issues for those that have developmental disabilities, as shown in the work I've done at Hope House in Portchester and in some other places. We have a lot of work ahead of us in Washington. I intend to work as a Democrat within my conference, but also across the aisle with Republicans, as I have done my whole career. And if we go down there with the right spirit, we'll get some results.
Dr. Levitt.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Dr. Miriam Levitt Flisser, and I'm a pediatrician. I I work in Bronxville, New York, where I have an office, and I'm also the medical director of the Bronxville School District. As a community member, I have served as the mayor of Scarsdale. I was also on the board at Scarsdale, and I was the police commissioner and the fire commissioner. By the way, those are all term limited positions, and that I was able to do those for the maximum that was permitted at the time. I wanted to tell you something interesting. I'm a lifelong volunteer at both Montefiore Hospital and also Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville, where I was the chief of pediatrics for 15 years as a volunteer. And I'm also a volunteer at Columbia Presbyterian. And something very interesting that happened a month or so ago. I am a volunteer for FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency for our area. And I had to do some training because we were preparing for possibility of having some rough weather here, as you know, which happened in the other states, but we did not get it. But nonetheless, we were all preparing for this. And one of the things that we specialized in the training was helping people with disabilities in case they had to be moved. And I learned a great deal there. And more interestingly, they also taught me how to handle service animals. That was fantastic for all of us because many of us had ideas about handling service animals that turned out to be not appropriate, and we did learn and train on that. So these are the kind of activities that I do in our community, and I hope to be able to represent you and to express what you have told me you want expressed. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for Momentito. Okay. And now there are going to be 3 questions. I'm going to ask each candidate the same question, and they will have 3 minutes to answer. The first question is on affordable housing. And once again, Michelle will indicate the 1-minute mark. And we're going to start with you, Dr. Levitt. Affordable housing.
Yes.
How do you plan to address the shortage of affordable, accessible housing for individuals with disabilities in our district?
Yes. It's a complex situation, as you know, because there's a great deal of need. And of course, I understand that folks with disabilities require certain situations, certain regulations, and should be as comfortable as possible in our community and in all communities. The problem is that there is conflict right now between the federal government and the local governments, and particularly the local residents, concerning control of our local housing, concerning local housing laws. And I have fear that this will lead to kind of disputes that will not allow us to build what we really want to build because of the conflicts. But I'm hoping that that sort of thing can be arranged so that we do have the correct housing for our needed constituents, And I'm very interested in this. I did study in high school. I went to the Bronx High School of Science, and architecture was one of the things that we studied there. And I have given a lot to my hospital as well in terms of information about what we need. And I am able to have people respond to me on that, something that I do understand, and I would like to go forward with.
Okay, thank you. Next, the county executive. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I got the question. Thank you. On affordable housing. We do have a bit of a dichotomy in terms of where we are in Westchester versus where we are in the Bronx. And this district spans both areas. We have about 70,000 people in the Bronx that are represented in the 16th district. In Westchester, over the last 7 years, we've developed more affordable housing across the board, all different categories than we've had in the prior administration. And we've done it cooperatively. The conversation about conflict exists more in the distant past than in the recent past, because we've been able to be cooperative, county government, local governments, in identifying parcels that can be developed for affordable housing that are acceptable within the community. The important thing to understand is that to help the needs of the disabled community, we need to make sure there are set-asides of a certain number of apartments that are upgraded so that a person with physical disabilities will be able to use them. And then to the extent that we have to deal with people with other types of disabilities, that those apartments are as friendly as can be possible. The key tool that we have is the Section 8 housing program. That's a federal program, and Section 8 money coming in to assist in the development of a project can help us target those additional costs that would go into addressing the needs of our disability community. And some of the simple things that were identified back in 1990 when we passed the AD, when the federal government passed the Americans with Disability Act, now have more modern problems because of technology. You need to be able to deal with people who have visual disability or audio disability and build that into what you do. For example, if you're in an elevator, you need to have a noise component to the elevator buttons so that people know they can count how many floors there are. It's something simple, but it's part of what has to be done. So I think the member of Congress goes there, understands what projects are at hand, works with the advocacy groups for the disabled community, identifying set-asides in each of those buildings. It's also important to understand that we don't want to concentrate people necessarily in multi-unit buildings, and we have to look for ways to be able to provide alternate housing as well for those who have those disabilities. Each disability is a little bit different, but I think I've shown as county executive that we're sensitive to that, and I can be sensitive to that as well were I in Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Latimer. The next question, actually, I'm going to stick with you, is about employment opportunities. What specific measures will you take to improve job opportunities and workplace accommodations for people with disabilities?
I think we've shown already in Westchester County that we have identified those employers who are willing to hire people who have some type of disability, wherever it may be across the spectrum. I mentioned before, we've had a number of job fairs at the county center. We've had them in Yonkers as well. And it's married people who need employment, who have some disabilities, and also those companies that are willing to hire those individuals. And so the real challenge here is to try to identify and then directly work with those companies that are willing to employ people who have any of those situations. And I think the office of a member of Congress to reach out to those corporations, to hold meetings with people. Almost all these major companies, MasterCard, IBM, Regeneron, you name it, have programs to try to show the diversity of their workforce. And we work with them in order to identify the matching up between people who are interested in a job opportunity and those that they have available within those corporate settings. I would work through the existing Westchester County Office of Economic Development as a member of Congress to assist, and where some additional funding might be needed that would be available, that type of grantsmanship could help to the company that's willing to hire a certain number of people who have a disability. We've made some progress in this area, and I think we can make more progress together. We can do it cooperatively.
Dr. Levitt, your response to employment opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. There's no question that we should be boosting jobs, both nationally and in our area. And as you know, I'm always looking at practical things. So I'll tell you a little thing that I've already done, which is that I am the medical director of the Bronxville School District. And during the COVID, we never closed. We were able to keep open, and that is very important because one of our responsibilities in Bronxville is a BOCES program, which provides special education to students who require it from all over the county, not just from our local area. These children who come to our schools stay with us a long period of time and can stay in the program through age 21. Of course, employment is part of this. By being able to keep the program open, particularly in the summers when the students do come from everywhere, was a great achievement for us. We received a nice award from the federal government for doing so, and it was very practical as well. I had my nurses coming in who were off in the summer, but coming in to help in this situation, and I was able to arrange for us to have a legal laboratory. So we were able to test people and make sure that the exposure was proper. There were a lot of physical changes of the building that had to be done as well. And everybody was making fun of me, but I was able to have it done. They were both for isolation reasons, if someone was ill, and holding people just in case they had to be moved, and also because of our students that have disabilities. So all in all, I'm very good at doing this on the ground, and I'm sure I'll be able to do it in the sky as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Levitt. And now for the third and final question, a topic that's very near and dear to me and also to WDOM, voting and people with disabilities. Accessible voting. What steps will you take to ensure that voting is accessible to all individuals with disabilities, including those with mobility issues, sensory disabilities, and cognitive impairments? And I'm going to throw this one to the county executive.
Okay, so I took a little while to unmute myself. The Board of Elections has the ability to identify the sites for voting here in Westchester County, both the early voting sites and the individual precinct sites. And the State Board of Elections sets the rules for what kind of equipment can be used. At the present, there are voting machines that are available at every precinct to try to assist those who have various difficulties and disabilities. I think I'd like to see the disability community look at those equipment and determine if they meet the need for those people who have different types of difficulties and so forth. Then if we need to have an upgrade in Westchester County of those voting equipment, then I think we can do that. And we look for federal money, grant money that would help do that. The county government normally pays for that. We've upgraded equipment from time to time, but I think we want the disability community to look at it and make a determination if they see improvements in the type of equipment that's available. There are certain vendors that are authorized by the state government that would fall into this category. The other thing I think that would be essential is to do an audit. We did this once a long time ago when I was a county legislator, but to do an audit of every single voting location in Westchester County, walk through it, so to speak, with advocates and look at what impediments may exist physically in those locations, things that may make it more difficult for a person with physical disabilities to do that. If we identify that, one of two things. Number one, either financial improvements to that site to make them more accessible, or to look for an alternate site that falls within that area, that district, that would then be more accessible. This is going to be a lot of work, but it's working on the grassroots level of government, and the federal government role in this would be to put money in as possible to help make those sites available and help make that equipment available.
Thank you. The same question to Dr. Levitt. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Sure. Accessible voting. What steps will you take to ensure that voting is accessible to all individuals with disabilities, including those with mobility issues, sensory disabilities, and cognitive impairments?
I'm very interested in upgrading voting. It's a very important part of the United States of America, as you know, and it's how you represent yourself to the world when we're all counted out together and see how our opinions rise. So it's an absolutely critical thing that we do. One of the things that I am very interested in as well is making sure that the voting assistance that our people with disabilities receive, right, is fair and correct. What am I talking about? I have seen this with my own eyes, where people's caregivers who receive the voting materials have been able to use the voting for their own opinions and not represent the opinions of their patients. That's a very key thing. We've got to do something to check on that. I had an incident once myself where I went to a poll. They did not know who I was. And someone there who was working in the polls asked me whether I wanted to do a certain technique that would have helped a candidate. And it involved a write-in. And I was surprised why she would do that. But apparently, they're not as supervised as they should be. So I feel, of course, it has to be fair. And it's going to require this very careful review of the voting of people who have assistance so that we know that it's their vote that counts, not the vote of their caretaker or other personnel in their area.
Thank you so much. We are doing so wonderfully on time. I can't believe this. Usually this never happens. I think this is the first time I've seen this happen. So, however, we are at the point of the closing statements. And I'm going to give you an extra minute, 3 minutes each, to do your closing statements. And again, thank you so much both for coming to this event. It's very meaningful to people with disabilities to hear your interest and your concern about our rights. And so I am going to have you wrap it up for our community right now. And let's start with, we already discussed this before the event started, that we're going to begin with the County Executive, George Latimer, to do the closing statement first, and you have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of our ideas. In answering these questions, I've tried to be specific. How to use Section 8 resources to develop affordable housing, how to identify companies so that we can do job outreach and job placement, to talk about what we have to do to improve our accessibility for voting. And one of the things I think is important, and one of the co-sponsors of this debate, or this forum rather, is AAPD, American Association of People with Disabilities. They have a robust list of advocacy on their website, different bills they sponsor or that they support. And I would look at a meeting in Washington with AAPD representatives to discuss what some of those major issues would be, determine if I could co-sign on to them, and if there's any legislation that they'd like to see happen that I think I'd be comfortable being the prime sponsor of, were that to be the case. All of this comes down to this. We're both people of goodwill, and we both want to do the right thing. We might have some differences in philosophy. I've had experience going to Albany that helps me understand how to work in a complicated legislature to get results. I've shown when I ran running Westchester County as an executive, previously as chair of the county legislature years ago, that it's appropriate to know what strategies you're going to do to try to take the good ideas that you have and make them come to pass. I would look at working across the aisle. I'd look at working within my conference. I'd like to work with whoever's in the White House if they're willing to work with us. And out of that, make some progress. We've made progress in Westchester County these last 7 years. It isn't perfect, but we've made improvements. And I would hope to do the same thing for whatever length of time you see fit to send me to Washington.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned AAPD because they are a sponsor. They actually sponsor a nationwide campaign called Rev Up, Register, Educate, Power, Use Your Power. I think I have one of the letters wrong there. It's a long acronym, but they do sponsor these events throughout the country. And as we all know, this is a very crucial year for elections. So we're so thankful for both of you coming. Now, Dr. Levitt, you did ask me not to say Dr. Flisser. I just want
it's okay.
The audience understood that. I didn't arbitrarily decide just call you Dr. Levitt. Dr. Levitt, could you please give us your closing statement?
Absolutely. I do believe that our citizens with disability deserve strengthening of the regulations, and it's a problem, I think, because we are a country of laws. That's how we do our things, right? Not with pressure, but with law. However, we don't have at this point clear and reasonable rules that are enforced consistently, and there is some intolerable things going on in terms of law enforcement, and that does trickle down to all the regulations that are enforced. I believe you deserve to be safe. I believe that you deserve schools and educational institutions that are accountable to yourself and to the parents of children. And I also believe you deserve a secure border, so you don't have to worry so much about the kind of crime that we've been seeing lately. You also deserve a government that will make sensible use of your taxes and make sure that the money that we put in is used properly to help you. I think, to review, we have to boost jobs, we have to streamline healthcare, we have to strengthen our national security, and we have to promote energy independence as well. All of these things affect us all, and I'm hoping to be able to help us to improve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Levitt. Thank you both for coming to this event and to explaining your views to us. We greatly appreciate it. And I hope everyone get something to take away from this to help them to decide who to vote for. I'm not going to ask you to stick around because I know you're both busy campaigning, But again, thank you so much once again and for serving our community. We do appreciate it. Bye-bye.